All right, let's dive into this Harvard vegetable soup thing.
Oh yeah, this should be interesting.
It seems like everyone's talking about it online.
Yeah, I saw that Lemonade post too.
Oh, so you've seen it.
Yeah, pretty wild claims.
Yeah, boosted immunity, weight loss, all thanks to soup,
And they're saying Harvard studied it.
right?
Right.
Like, is there actually some secret Harvard recipe?
Well, we did get that Harvard Magazine article.
True.
It mentions Teresa Chen.
Oh, right, the soup enthusiast.
She wrote a whole book about Cantonese soups and their benefits.
But she didn't mention a specific Harvard soup, though, right?
No, not really, but she talks about the principles behind it.
Okay, so maybe it's more about the concept.
Yeah, like eating simple, whole foods, lots of veggies.
Which makes sense. I mean, everyone's looking for healthy meals.
Exactly, and it ties into those Cantonese soup traditions.
Oh, you mean like how they see soup as nourishing and medicinal?
Exactly, it's all about balance.
So maybe this Harvard soup is more of a philosophy than a recipe.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so the Harvard connection might be a bit of a stretch.
It might be.
But what about the health claims? Is there any truth to that?
Well, they talk about boosting immunity, aiding weight loss, improving digestion.
Yeah, even anti-inflammatory properties.
Right, and while the science might be iffy on some of those,
Sure.
the nutritional value of the soup itself is undeniable.
Yeah, tons of vitamins, minerals,
The-
fiber.
Pretty much every source we have mentions that.
And I mean, you're all about getting more veggies in your diet, right?
Absolutely, and this seems like a pretty tasty way to do it.
All right, let's get to the actual recipe. What's in this Harvard vegetable soup?
Well, the Lemonade post keeps it super simple.
Okay.
Onion, pumpkin, cabbage, and carrot, all simmered in water.
Really, that's it?
That's what they say.
Seems almost too easy.
But we also have those blog posts about making vegetable broth from scratch.
Right, right. They talk about building layers of flavor, like sautéing aromatics.
Yeah, and caramelizing the vegetables.
Oh, I love that caramelized flavor.
Adds so much depth.
But I've never really understood how it works.
Well, it's all about the sugars breaking down, creating those complex flavors.
Oh, I see. So it's like a chemical transformation.
Pretty much.
That's cool. So we have these two approaches, simple versus complex.
And both have their merits.
For sure. Sometimes you just want easy, other times you want gourmet.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you.
But even the simple recipes can benefit from those extra steps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those little details can make a huge difference.
Like the caramelizing or adding a splash of vinegar.
Exactly.
So this Harvard vegetable soup is more than just a recipe. It's like a starting point.
I think you're right. It opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Yeah, it's about understanding the why behind the what.
And that's what makes cooking fun.
Absolutely. Okay, before we get carried away, there's one more thing.
What's that?
The vegetable scraps, some sources say use them, some say avoid them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a debate.
I like the idea of zero waste, but I'm worried about bitterness,
I get it. Some veggies can definitely make the broth bitter.
like broccoli or cauliflower.
Right, anything from that cruciferous family.
So you have to be selective with the scraps.
For sure, and some of those blog posts give tips on how to choose and store them.
Oh, like freezing them for later?
Exactly.
I love that. It's like a flavor hack.
Less waste, more flavor. Win-win.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Me too. It's all connected.
The recipe, the techniques, the health benefits,
It's like a bigger picture.
and it's making me hungry.
Me too.
All right, let's move on to the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll explore different cooking methods and how to make the soup your own.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, so before we jump into cooking methods, I want to touch on those health claims again.
Yeah, good point. We don't want to get carried away.
Right, there's no magic Harvard study, but there's definitely something to the idea of food as medicine.
Absolutely, and that's where that Harvard Magazine article comes in again.
With Teresa Chen?
Right, she talked about how in Cantonese culture, soups are seen as both nourishment and medicine.
I remember that. She also emphasized adapting recipes to individual needs.
Exactly. It's not one size fits all.
I loved that part. It's about listening to your body.
And using food to restore balance.
Which is exactly what this Harvard vegetable soup seems to be about.
Right. Simple ingredients, minimal processing, focusing on what your body needs.
So it's less about a specific recipe and more about a way of approaching food.
A philosophy, almost.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah, it connects with something deeper.
And it reminds me of those two contrasting ideas we saw in the sources.
You mean the simplicity of the viral recipe versus the complexity of homemade broth?
Exactly. It's like two sides of the same coin.
I think you're right. It shows how cooking can be both simple and complex.
And both approaches can be healthy and delicious.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you.
Speaking of ingredients, one thing that stands out is the focus on fresh produce.
Oh, definitely. Every source emphasized using high-quality ingredients.
It's like they're saying, start with the best and the rest will follow.
It makes sense. Fresh ingredients just taste better.
And they're more nutritious.
Right, and when you think about those Cantonese slow-cooked soups,
Yeah.
the emphasis on seasonal ingredients is really important.
It's about eating what's naturally available.
And aligning your diet with the rhythms of nature.
I love that it connects us back to something bigger.
And it makes the food taste even better.
It's amazing how something as simple as soup can do all that.
It is, right.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to the idea of using vegetable scraps.
Oh, right. That debate.
It's not just about reducing waste, it's about respecting the ingredients.
Getting the most out of them.
Exactly. Using every part of the vegetable.
And those tips about maximizing flavor were really cool.
Oh yeah, like sautéing the aromatics, caramelizing the vegetable.
And that trick with the vinegar?
A splash of acid can really brighten things up.
I'm starting to see how much potential there is in this simple soup.
There are so many ways to play with it.
You can add herbs, spices, even a dollop of pesto or chimichurri.
It's all about making it your own.
And that brings us back to that key point from the Harvard Magazine article.
About adapting recipes to individual needs.
Right. There's no one right way to do it.
It's about listening to your body and your taste buds.
And finding what makes you feel good.
That's what cooking should be about.
So it's not just about following a recipe, it's about understanding the principles.
And then experimenting, having fun with it.
I'm starting to think this Harvard vegetable soup is more than just a trend.
Me too. It's a whole movement.
Towards mindful eating, connecting with our food.
And finding joy in the kitchen.
I love that. Now I'm even more excited to talk about cooking methods.
Me too. Let's get into the electric pot and see what it can do.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why of this Harvard vegetable soup.
Yeah, the history, the health claims, the ingredients.
Now let's get to the how, the actual cooking.
The fun part.
Exactly, and I know a lot of our listeners are curious about the electric pot.
Oh yeah, it's all over those blog posts.
Seems like the go-to method for this soup.
And for good reason, it's super convenient.
Yeah, I mean, set it and forget it, right?
Exactly. Perfect for busy weeknights.
But I did see some concerns about the texture.
Oh, you mean how it can make the soup thicker?
Yeah, is that a problem?
Not necessarily. Depends what you're looking for.
True, some people might prefer a heartier soup.
And you can always thin it out with more water.
Or blend some of it for a smoother texture.
There you go. Problem solved.
What about the flavor, though? Does the electric pot change that?
A lot of people say it actually enhances the sweetness of the vegetables.
Really? How does that work?
The consistent temperature of the electric pot.
Ah, it cooks everything evenly.
Exactly. So the flavors develop more gently.
Interesting. So it's like a slower, more delicate cooking process?
And that's perfect for those simple, fresh ingredients.
It lets them shine through.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, we were talking about those two approaches to the soup.
The simple versus the complex.
Right, and it seems like the electric pot can kind of bridge that gap.
You mean it offers both ease and flexibility?
Yeah, you can start with a basic recipe.
Like the 4-vegetable combo.
And then add your own twists, like caramelizing the veggies beforehand.
Or using a splash of vinegar to brighten the flavors.
It's like having the best of both worlds.
And it's so approachable. Anyone can do it.
I think that's what's so great about this whole Harvard vegetable soup thing.
It's more than just a recipe. It's a way of thinking about food.
It's about making healthy choices that are easy and enjoyable.
And it's about connecting with those culinary traditions.
Like those Cantonese slow-cooked soups.
Where simple ingredients and mindful preparation are key.
I'm starting to feel inspired to go experiment in my own kitchen.
Me too. I think I'm going to whip up a batch of that soup tonight.
And that's what we hope you'll do too, dear listeners.
Go try this Harvard vegetable soup. Make it your own.
Play with the ingredients, experiment with the flavors.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, happy cooking.